I can.
Yeah, of course, having Steph Curry back is the quick fix. Making some shots, that's going to help out, especially one game after the starters were outscored by 50 points compared to the Miami Heat starters. But it's, of course, about more than that. When I was in Miami after the game, I point blank asked Jimmy Butler, what needs to change? And he said, probably the effort coming out of the jump. That's the biggest thing to me. This is a team that is 12-23 when trailing after the first quarter. You look at these last two losses. You guys brought up the defense, right? The Hawks and the Heat, they combined to shoot over 56% from the field, over 52% from the three-point line. The Miami Heat, they shot 68% from three. That is a franchise record and the highest mark that the Warriors have given up since 2018. A 40-point first quarter for the Hawks, a 17-point halftime lead for the Heat. So it's about asserting yourself and setting a tone. Those are numbers that Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler are going to take personally. It's always been about the shooters around Steph Curry and how to find scoring around Steph Curry as well. But I think going out there and setting the tone from the beginning of a defensive-minded team is going to take the Warriors a long way for the rest of this road trip.
With that Miami game in particular, I know we joke about South Beach flu, but when you hear people not ready to come out and play, do you think this is part of a trend? Do you see something a little bigger here, or was that a one-off because of location?
Well, it might have had a little bit to do with it. I can't, get too deep into that. But again, this was the first losing streak since Jimmy Butler's been here. Mm-hmm. The first time that they've lost 2 games in a row. So I think that when you bring a presence like Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, they're going to want to flip the script really, really quickly. And of course, adding Steph Curry, what does that do to the morale? It is an automatic injection, a big-time boost for this team. So you just want to make sure that things don't spiral. Yeah. There's only 10 games to go, and the way that the standings are right now, you want to right the ship right now and do not let this really start to snowball in the worst time possible.
Yeah, I feel like because it was both the Hawks and the Heat, it was a 2-game sample there, that maybe it wasn't, a one-off for Miami. But yeah, with 10 games left, as he's saying, the Warriors don't have a lot of room for mistakes right now, and they need better starts to these games.
Yeah, we'll get to the Wild Wild Western Conference a little bit later, but the Clippers are surging. However, courtesy of the Warriors X account, Stephen Curry is active today against the Pels, so that is great news. What's not great news is Gary Payton II, who has been playing so well over his last 13 games, shooting 48% from the three-point line, 64.5% from the floor. He will be out indefinitely as he has suffered a partial tear of a ligament in his left thumb. It happened Tuesday night against the Miami Heat. For more on GP2's rehab and recovery, here is Dr. Seth Sherman with tonight's Stanford Medicine Injury Report.
You can protect it in a splint, but come out of that splint early for range of motion so that you don't get weakness or atrophy of those muscles. Just because you're not stressing the ligaments, those ropes that hold the bones together, doesn't mean you can't, work some of the muscles so you don't lose tremendous time in that regard. And so, I'm sure he's working with the trainers and or occupational therapy or other, on that initially. And then, once they make a reassessment and see that the trajectory is positive, then you move from that initial period of protection onwards towards some individual kind of basketball related drills. You see what type of protection, if any, is able to be utilized. You can do some sort of taping, wrapping, small custom molded splints, etc. But obviously that can't interfere with his job, his ability to shoot and score. So it'll be a give and take, but that's typically the tools in the toolbox. There's not perfect evidence for injection therapies, but sometimes we can utilize those as well, things like PRP, etc. But I'm not going to speculate because I don't know the exact injury, and there's just a paucity of perfect information to guide us on whether that helps us with cutting a few days or a week off of his prognosis.
Brutal injury at the wrong time for Gary Payton II. As I cited the numbers, he's probably played his best basketball since the championship season back in 2022. So he'll be reevaluated next Thursday. And the hope is you get your point of attack defender back. But Mully, you were just showing me your scar because you dealt with something similar over the course of your career.
Yeah, I had the same injury. I had to have surgery at that point in time. They inserted a pin. It's a tough injury to come back to play with because it seems, and this, Fest, when you injure something, it seems to always get hit. Mm-hmm. There's like a bullseye on that particular injury. It's on Gary's left hand, which is his shooting hand. It affects ball handling, definitely going to affect your shooting. And probably the main concern is re-injuring it, because how many times you get hit, and Gary's always playing defense with his hands and swiping at ball. So it's going to be a tough go moving forward. Hopefully he can play with the brace, or my main concern is him re-injuring it and tearing that thing where he needs surgery.
Well, Fezzi, what does it mean for the roster? Because he was playing some really good basketball in the dunker spot. Corner threes, picking up 94 feet. This is a massive blow for the Warriors that lost their depth and point of attack defender in Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, this is a tough blow for the Warriors. Losing Gary Payton II. He's playing incredible basketball. A couple of the things he's been doing very well. Cutting, and any time they try to double team Steph or Jimmy Butler, he's cutting right to the rim. He's shooting about 58% from the field. That's big man numbers, right? Small but mighty Gary Payton II. He's hitting corner threes at really timely points in the game. He's done a great job defending full court. You put him on the best offensive player of the other team. So these are all things you're going to be missing with Gary Payton II. But I'm always glass half full, okay? So even at a moment like this, you have players on this roster. We've talked from the start of the season about how deep this roster is. You have guys in Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Brandon Pajemski. All of these guys can do something that Gary Payton brings to the floor. Hitting shots, well, Moses Moody's been doing a great job hitting shots. Brandon Pajemski as well. That defense, I think Jonathan Kuminga, this is where he can take that step forward and really fill that hole that Gary Payton II.
Yeah, we'll have something on J.K., Moody, and Pods a little bit later in the program, but every game is a playoff game from here on out. Yeah, we'll debate that old cliche, but I really think it rings true right now with the Golden State Warriors. Every game is a playoff game. We'll break it down coming up on Warriors Pregame Live. The Warriors in New Orleans for the third stop on a 6-game road trip. The Big Easy. I thought Miami, you could get lost in the sauce. New Orleans is no slouch in that department, but I think the Warriors mean business after losing the first couple games on this road trip. Of course, they spent 5 days in Miami, but it's on now. 72 down, 10 to go, and it is a race to the 6th spot here as we look at the remaining 10 games for the Warriors, Clippers, and T-Wolves. Fezzi Fell, I'll start with you. What sticks out to you about these schedules?
Well, for the Warriors right now, they do have a chance to, games like Portland, San Antonio, Phoenix, these are all games that you can win. But we've seen the Warriors being consistent through their schedule so far. So this is a chance right now to right your wrongs. Defensively, this is what I'll talk about all the time. This is a chance for the Warriors to really get back to being a dominant defensive team. And when you look at the other teams, your destiny is still in your hands. Make sure you take control of it starting tonight.
Look at that last game of the season.
Clippers and Warriors at Chase Center.
It may come down to that. And the Warriors are going to have to at least be tied at that point in time. They've got to finish a game ahead of the Clippers because the Clippers own that tiebreaker. So as Fezzi said, it's time to get, stack wins. Hopefully Steph will play tonight. You have your entire roster back. Start playing good basketball. They played great basketball since Jimmy Butler has been here. But we've noticed, turnovers have increased a little bit. That's cost them. We've noticed opposing teams playing a little bigger on Jimmy Butler, say with their power forward. And not coming in double as much. So it's going to be important that they kind of reestablish their offensive flow where they can incorporate Jimmy's isolation game, but maintain that rhythm and flow with Steph running off screens.
I can't help but look at that Minnesota schedule. Games with Brooklyn, some tanking teams there. Minnesota has a great shot to finish in that top 6. As we take a look at the best final 10-game stretches in Golden State Warriors basketball history here, we've got some great stretches. 2016 and 17, 9-1, 06, 07. The We Believe team tied for the best 10-game stretch to end the season.
The thing about finishing at the end of the season and finishing strong, it's really important because you get to set your offense, you get to set your defense. I'm really happy for the Warriors having 2 days off. They got a chance to practice the past couple of days. Full practice, going up and down the court. You don't have practice time in the NBA anymore, especially at this point in the season, because legs are tired. Your guys who are playing a lot of minutes, they're too tired to play and get that time. So having Steph out was kind of a blessing in disguise because he got to come out, go up and down the court. What's really important about that is you get to show up some mistakes. The Warriors have slipped defensively. Offensively, they're kind of losing a little bit of rhythm. With GP2 out, you're going to force some rotation, some new lineups in the mix again. So the Warriors need to have that practice time to really get that chemistry going back right. So finishing strong right now is going to be really important.
There's no doubt about that. Something we'll get to in just a second. But first, let's hear from the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr, on out overlooking these short-headed New Orleans Pelicans.
You prepare your own team. You don't worry about the other team. You prepare your own team, and our guys know how often this happens, where guys are out on the other team, and how well everyone else plays because they're getting an opportunity. So we know that's what's coming tonight. They'll play with great energy, and all the guys who are getting the minutes are going to be excited about that. So it's on us to bring our own energy and our own execution.
All right, let's take a look at the young Bucks here. Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, both in their fourth years in the NBA. You see the minutes per game. Moses Moody's played well, but we'll chronicle his last 5 games because in his last 5, Moses Moody shooting just 32.5% from the floor and 17% from 3. He's in a bit of a slump. You see Jonathan Kuminga's numbers since he's returned after missing 31 games. So it is imperative for these two guys to get rolling here, but having Steph back in the lineup alongside Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green can hopefully unlock these two young Bucks for the stretch run.
Well, as you go into the playoffs, Bonte, you know that Jimmy Butler's proven. Steph Curry and Draymond Green are definitely proven in the playoffs. And so you have the role players, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield. These guys are guys that are trying to learn how to win in the NBA. Moses Moody has gotten a taste. He is an NBA champion. He won with the Warriors in 2022. But right now he's going to be playing a bigger role. So for Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, it's finding ways to make shots when the defense is paying attention to Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Because that's what they're going to do. They're trying to get the ball out of those star players' hands into these guys' hands. So chemistry is going to be important. JK, your job is to find ways to cut to the rim. Those lanes are going to be closed tighter and tighter as the playoffs come along because defenses are going to get better. So finding ways to operate in small spaces is going to be important for him. Playing great defense on the point of attack defense we keep talking about. Playing great defense on the opposing team's best players. That's the way to make your mark in the game. But play with energy for both these guys. Moses Moody can make shots. Playing with energy, making sure they feel your presence, offensive rebounds. These are things of these young guys and the ways that they can make an impact in the game for the Warriors.
Yeah, if you look at that graphic, their field goal percentage and three-point percentage has to increase. The efficiency numbers have to get back to Moses. I think has had a really good year. He's been solid all year. Last game, 0 for 9 from 3. So I think Moses is very comfortable finding his open shot off of Jimmy Butler's half-court offense. I think he's got a great feel in transition where to find his shot. He just got to get back to knocking down shots. Jonathan's still making that transition, coming back off injury to a brand new team with Jimmy Butler. So he's still figuring it out. But his efficiency numbers have to rise. And to me, he has to play with reckless abandon in transition. And then once it's in the half court, make good decisions, whether he's going to be a slasher, a screener, or a spacer. And those sound like simple decisions. But, you know, in a short shot clock, it's important you know exactly where to be at the right time. And playing off of Jimmy Butler is going to be important for Jonathan. Getting to the free throw line would be a good way to get him untracked. And then with GP2 injured, as Festus said, I think defensively, when he checks in the game, if I was him, I'd pick up 94 feet just to get my energy going. And that's another way to play with reckless abandon, play with energy, and have an impact on the game without scoring.
Yeah, you mentioned Moses Moody having a fine season. Before these last 5 games, he had scored in double figures at 23 of his last 27. It was shooting a high clip from the three-point line. So it's just a matter of making shots for him and then getting Kuminga into that role and being in that dunker spot. Well, I think if you simplify it for him over these next 10, we may see a more effective Jonathan Kuminga.
I want him to play angry. Be out there and really make your impact because energy for him and energy for the Warriors is going to be important coming from him. Jonathan Kuminga is an athlete. He brings a different variety to the Warriors' offense, being the fact that he can play above the rim, finish around the paint. Those are things that the Warriors are going to need definitely as they go into the playoffs.
And you talk about with GP2 his defense, but also GP2, you know, we always think he plays just out of the dunker, but he has a great feel when to be in the dunker. He's also has found his wide open three-point shot. And he's also a great screener. So those are 3 things Jonathan Kuminga is going to have to bring to the team.
A sleeper that we didn't get to is Guy Santos, had 8 points in that first quarter the other night in Miami, played with a lot of energy. He could have his name called here over the next 10 games as well. Don't sleep on Guy Santos as well. But Draymond Green, that's what's up next here as he touches on the highs and lows of his NBA career, including rock bottom. Let's show you a little snippet of the Dub Talk podcast. Possibly the wildest finish in the NBA this season. The Lakers were up 5 with 13 seconds left. But Josh Giddey hits half-court buzzer beater for the win. And for the second time in the week, the Bulls beat the Lakers. Josh Giddey, 25 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists. How about Kevin Huerter? 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Kobe White, we know we love Kobe White on this panel. 26 points, 9 assists.
Heartbreaking, Bonte.
They were up 5 with 13 seconds left.
What
and the Bulls.
Wild 48 hours for the Los Angeles Lakers.
They made 11 threes in the fourth quarter?
Yes. Scored 44 in the fourth quarter.
Insane.
They're just trying out players,
I was going to say, tries to go well over there in Chicago.
We're going to have a home game in the play-in tournament as we take a look at the wild, wild Western Conference. And you see the Warriors, folks, they're in the box. You don't want to be in that middle column. They're 41-31, tied with the Clippers, but the Clippers have beat the Warriors in all 3 matchups this season. But look out for the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll get to them in just a second, but the West is getting tighter and tighter. By the way, the Houston Rockets, I keep waiting for them to lose. They're 48-26. They're gonna probably lock up that 2 seed soon.
All right, that's a shout out to Ime Udoka, Coach Ime Udoka, and he's really got that team playing really well. Got young players, but they have some experienced veterans who really are trying to show their team how to win. Defense is one of the key factors and key attributes for the Houston Rockets. They're doing that well. But the West right now is incredible. The Lakers just won on the buzzer beater to the Indiana Pacers a couple of games ago. LeBron James has a tip-in for game. The next game, they lose to the Chicago Bulls. It doesn't matter. The last 10 games of the season, every game is going to feel like a playoff game. Even for teams that don't have anything to play for, they just play because this is the end of the season. What are you saving anything for? Right. So you're going to have a lot of teams. So the Warriors tonight going against the New Orleans Pelicans, they got to come out and put their foot down early in the game. This is going to be a good test for all the guys. It's a time for you to start shoring up your defense. I keep saying that over and over and over. For the Warriors, this game tonight is going to be huge. Steve Kerr said that too, and they got to find a way to start tightening up, getting ready for the playoffs.
You look at those standings, the Clippers and the Warriors both at 41-31, so the Clippers are ahead of them because of the tiebreaker. And then Bonte was talking about looking at the loss column. Minnesota has 32. They're just a game behind in the loss column, and I think they have a pretty easy schedule. So it's going to come down to Clippers, Warriors, and Minnesota to stay out of the play-in situation. And that April 13th game, Clippers versus Warriors here at Chase, could be a huge game.
Could be huge, but Minnesota, you mentioned their schedule. Hosting Phoenix tonight, at home, Detroit on Sunday. Then they go to Denver, and they own Denver, the Minnesota T-Wolves. Then they go to Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Memphis, Brooklyn, and Utah.
They've had a few weird losses, too, mixed in there.
Yeah, they lost to the Pacers without 4 of their 5 starters. They lost to the Pelicans last week.
Are we one to talk? We've had a lot of weird losses over here as well.
We're not one to talk at all.
For one, I just think for the Warriors, the focus should be on playing your best basketball at this point in the season. You can't have any more of those weird losses against teams that are depleted. Tonight is the first start.
Now, this story coming up here blew us all away this morning here. The Memphis Grizzlies fired coach Taylor Jenkins. Has the most wins in franchise history. Memphis, for basically all of the season, been in the top 5. They may get home court advantage in the first round, but they've been falling a little bit. They're slipping 44-29 on the season, but they fired Taylor Jenkins with 9 games remaining. Tomas Isalo will step in to be the interim coach for the Memphis Grizzlies. They fired their top 2 assistants as well, and they're scheduled with 9 games left, fellas. L.A., the Lakers, that is, Boston, the Warriors, Miami, Detroit, Charlotte, Minnesota, Denver, and Dallas. So, Mully, you're a historian when it comes to this league. A playoff team in the top 5 firing their coach with less than 10 games left. I don't think I've seen that one before. Have you seen that before?
I don't recall anything like this happening before. Taylor Jenkins, I think, has done a phenomenal job with the Grizzlies organization. He's transformed that team into an offensive juggernaut when they were pretty much a grit and grind defensive team. Like you said, Bonds, they've been a top 4 team all season long. He's dealt with Ja Morant in and out of the lineup. Recently, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been hurt, so he's done an incredible job. So what's happening between management and the coaching staff, I don't know the details, but it's pretty irresponsible, in my opinion, to do that to the players at this point in time. You should be able to get through the rest of the season, through the playoffs, and then do your business at that point in time. But I don't know the details, but it sure is a very strange situation.
I don't know how you're supposed to go into the playoffs with a whole new coach, maybe a new system, trying to go win. This is a top-seeded team in the West, right? And you have Ja Morant, you have Jaren Jackson, who's Defensive Player of the Year. So you have top offense, you got great defense, so you have a chance. And they're contenders right now. 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Steve Kerr just broke the record for most wins as a head coach of the Warriors. And when I asked him the question, how is that? How does that make you feel being there, having passed Al Ados? He said, well, I got to give credit to the organization because we've had some bad seasons along the way. It's not just wins. They've won 4 titles here, the Warriors have. But along the way, they've had bad seasons, and the organization has been able to weather the storm. So for the Memphis Grizzlies, this is just one of those things that have you scratching your head.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head, too. And their schedule over the next 9, they may be in a box at some point here over the next 9. They continue to lose here. Well, what a strange situation in Memphis, Tennessee, and the Grizzlies. All right. Time now for the forward starting lineups for the Golden State Warriors. In this lineup, this will be the 10th game this lineup has been used. You know what, fellas? They're 9-0 when we see this lineup to start a game with Stephen Curry and Brandon Pajimski in the backcourt, Moses Moody at the 3, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green up in the front, Corey Quinn Post, J.K. will come off the bench for the Golden State Warriors, who will be without Gary Payton II, who will be reevaluated next Thursday, the partially torn ligament in his shooting thumb. So Steph Curry's back in the lineup. And again, 9-0 with this lineup out there. So looking to see how the chef moves around on the floor. But it's a good sign, Fezzi felt that he's back so quickly after that pelvic contusion and that rough scare last Thursday against Toronto.
Absolutely. Having Steph back in the lineup, this is a huge morale boost for the Warriors. They desperately need that confidence as they're going into the last 10 games. But after a beatdown in Miami, a game where the Warriors felt like they should have won, and defensively they slipped up, having Steph back in the lineup is going to make you feel good. Now it's back to winning those games, back to playing confidently, back to getting the offense shored up, and that's what the Warriors are looking to do. And having Steve Kerr at the helm, you know that they're looking to win this game tonight.
And you see with and without Steph, Mully, real quick, 12 games without Stephen Curry, obviously. It's actually surprising they're over 500 without their franchise player. The points per game is obviously down. Field goal percentage is down. The other night from 3, what are they? 8 of 39 against the Miami Heat. So they'll get some shooting back as well from number 30.
Yeah, you never want to be without your best player. Steph makes so much happen for this team. And then, the last 10 games of the season, you really want to find your rhythm as a group. So you need everyone together playing good basketball. So it's important he's back. It's important, I think, tonight, get off to a good start. You said this team's 9-0. Starts of games have been a problem as well. Letting teams hang around, get some confidence. So we always talk about finishing quarters, the first 5 minutes of the third quarter. But I'm always into the first quarter, but really getting off to a good start, putting your imprint on the game. And no matter who New Orleans is going to roll out there tonight, make sure you let them know this is not going to be a 48-minute game. We're going to take care of business.
I agree with you, Fezzi. Defensively, you gave up 40 in the first quarter to Atlanta and gave up 65% shooting from the floor in that quarter, 60% in the first half. So Miami did. They were up 17 at the half, hitting 3 after 3 after 3. So I'm going to rock with you on this one. Defensively, they need to set a tone tonight.
Say what you want about the New Orleans Pelicans. A lot of key guys are out tonight, but they just beat the Minnesota Timberwolves last week. They beat the 76ers, though the 76ers are struggling last game, so they're coming to this game with some confidence. And against the Detroit Pistons, who we've known to be a defensive-minded team, they scored 130 points. So this team can score in bunches if you let them get comfortable into the game. The start of the game is going to tell and dictate how this game is going to go. For the Warriors, this last 10-game stretch, it's time to start establishing yourself as a dominant team. And I'm not even going to put the onus on Steph, Draymond, or Jimmy Butler. I'm going to put it on the role players because I know how important they are going to be to this team and its longevity in the playoffs. Moses Moody in his shot making, Brandon Pajimski in his shot selection and increasing the pace of the game. Jonathan Kuminga coming in, playing defense, playing hard, getting offensive rebounds. All these things are going to be key. Quentin Post, defensively, we know he can shoot the basketball, but defensively, being able to hold his own, pick and roll defense, being the last line of defense, all these things are going to be key, and it's time to start putting these things together.
Yeah, well, I'll say what I want about the New Orleans Pelicans. They're 20-53. Their star players aren't playing, and their role players can't create for themselves. So it is up to Jimmy Butler, Steph, and Draymond to establish themselves, make things happen, and incorporate these role players so they're feeling good about their games come playoff time. You got 10 games to do that.
No doubt. We'll get to the Pelicans.